How's it going, everyone? My name is Graham, and welcome to Finding the References, a special branded series where we try to find all the references hidden within the Henry Stickmin series. We are finally moving on to the newest installment, the final episode, Completing the Mission, the end of a saga. It's been such an honor to pay an in-depth tribute to a series I love so dearly. As Puff said back in January 2017 when first announcing Completing the Mission and discussing the remakes, this may feel very George Lucas, but I feel like it's something I should do to make the collection feel more solid, since it kinda spans almost 10 years of work. With Puff putting so much time and detail into everything, it seems only fair that I take the time to get it all right. With this game being 3 times larger than Fleeing the Complex, and that was a 53-minute video, I know I was never going to fit all this into one video. This game is much more linear than the others, but that doesn't make it any less complex or complex. And if anything, the references are more dense than ever. Completing the Mission is such a brilliant and fitting title. It matches up with the format of verbing the noun, while also literally being a statement of the series' finality. This will complete everything from more than a decade of animated fun. This first video is going to include everything that branches off of infiltrating the airship's government-supported private investigator. And before I start on that, I actually have a choice of my own to make. This video is brought to you by Raid Shadow Legends. This game is free to play, cross-platform, available on PC, iOS, and Android. So as you're spending your days this year moving from desk to couch to desk to laying on the floor to couch to bed, you'll be able to play when, where, and how you want. But not what you want. That's already been decided. It's Raid. Also who you want, as the whole point of the game is assembling your own team of legends, with the why being to bash up bad guys. Every meaningful decision's been made for you, by me, and I'm reliable. Blast through the campaign, run dungeons, or duke it out in PvP against millions of other daily users. Crack open shards to earn new heroes to put to the test. And then sorry, where was I? Right, shards. Don't like your new hero? Teach them their place. Grind them up in hero goop and pour that nectar down the hatch of one of your heroes that's more deserving of your love. Sorry, war boy, you mopey disappointment. You're gonna be a protein shake for sure. My favorite part of this game is easily the quality of models and animation. As I've talked about on the channel, I spent years as a hobbyist animator myself, and it's something I pay extra close attention to in TV, games, and movies. These towering boss battles and the insane variety of heroes is beyond impressive. I've also been playing on my Samsung S3 because I'm an old prehistoric scrub who hasn't bothered upgrading. I guess I'm gonna have to come back for this. That's just terrible timing. Server maintenance. That was such unfortunate timing. It's working again like 5 minutes later on my terrible old phone. Raid is constantly being updated. They've recently rolled out their Artifact Forge to give players new ways to gear up their heroes, as well as a new advanced quest system with brand new rewards. As somebody who grew up obsessing over the Diablo franchise, quests and loot is all I really need to be happy. The Raid team has been incredibly courteous and are helping take this part-time channel to the next level, something I've only ever really dreamed of up till now. If you're curious about this game and want to show your support for the channel, there's never been a better time to check out Raid Shadow Legends. In my opinion, as we've established, I'm unbiased. At the top of this video description, there is a special link that will hook new players up with 100,000 silver, 50 gems, 10 mystery shards, and a free new champion, the Hex Weaver. A new character with the least effective helmet of all time, but hey, she gets mad respect for being a fashion pioneer. All that good stuff will be found in your in-game inbox right up in the top right corner here. Raid is also getting ready to roll out the Dune Tower, which is a fun new way to play. Snatch up this special offer now and you can start preparing your heroes for what's coming, but not Warboy. Never Warboy. My sincerest thanks to Raid and you guys for checking it out. Unfortunately, the game doesn't have any stickmins to offer, so we'll have to get back to the video for more of that. Starting with government-supported private investigator and Fleeing the Complex's ghost inmate. Henry is working with the government, the Top-At leaders have been arrested, and Henry fled the complex without helping Ellie. In this opening cutscene, based on that rectangular controller, it's most likely Henry is playing a NES console. The comms device is marked as being from Charles, and the interface is straight out of Metal Gear Solid. When listing the stolen assets of the Top-Ats, we see a money bag much like the one Henry used as a disguise in breaking the bank. The face Henry makes appears to be a Stickmin-ified version of the standard problem troll face. While sneaking up on the train, our first choice is the Top-At box. This honestly feels like a great place to start all of this digging into completing the mission because it takes us totally full circle. We get a near exact recreation of the breaking the bank scene with Winston Davis and Ted McAdams, except these two schmoes decide to leave it behind. How lazy. Hiding inside of the prop is much like Prop Hunt in Gary's mod, and a mod in Team Fortress 2, the latter being named after and based on the former. If playing the TF2 version, Pyro is the default class, and props can easily be tested with fire. The magic hat allows us to magic onto the train and crawl through the cargo. While this could just be a random fun moment, the way the hand reaches and waggles first reminds me of the old Bugs Bunny cartoon, The Case of the Missing Hair. The fact that the top hats don't look identical makes me think it's maybe a little more coincidental. Puff has never been that shy about making things look like exactly what he intended. The mannequin is a bit of a callback to Stealing the Diamond, although that statue was added in the remaster, so it's simultaneously a callback and an internal reference. I don't quite know how to classify that. Press F to pay respects is a common internet saying, mocking a scene from 2014's Call of Duty Advanced Warfare. When you see press F for respects on screen, if you actually press F or click the F, then you earn the achievement respects and you pay them, costing you 1,000 in-game dollars of some sorts. When we choose sit, there is a quick flash as Henry blends in and becomes somewhat grayed out, much like when trying to avoid detection in Assassin's Creed. The fail text, "Stowaways? On my train? It's more likely than you'd think." This is a reference to the "it's more likely than you think" meme, which traces back to a pop-up ad for Content Watch, the makers of NetNanny software. It has been made fun of pretty endlessly since. I'm not going to try to think too hard on the physics of this, but somehow Henry jumps straight out of the window, we hear a crash and he lands on top of the train? Sure, why not? The pinchers are a tool from Roller Coaster Tycoon, allowing you to pick up and move park patrons. An option in-game was to place them in water, which would then drown those poor innocent thrill seekers. The audio, UI, and allusion to your rating being affected all build on the Roller Coaster Tycoon reference. The successful free transform, complete with those menus, as an option is a tool straight from Adobe's various image and animation softwares like Photoshop, Illustrator, and Flash, with Flash being specifically what was used to animate this game. And the fact that it has a motion tween option in the menus means that this Adobe reference is meant to be Flash specific. I realize that there's one of the Among Us crewmates on screen right now. Because I'm breaking this up across multiple videos, that would be weirdly broken up, so I'll specifically point out all of these Among Us figures in the final completing the mission video. Once packed away in the soon-to-be beer cooler, we have a few onboard references. There is a box labeled as Tunisian artifacts, referencing back to the diamond in Stealing the Diamond. This statue in the back would be from Innersloth's indefinitely postponed game Diatide. I'm suspicious that this golden helmet and tank might also be something more specific. I didn't find anything in my research and think they may be generic after all. I'm not convinced. And there's a simple box of some good stuff. All three of the gadgets in this segment come with reviews from our recurring character, Gadget Gabe, which I might as well state one more time, I believe is intended to be a reference to Gabe Newell. It's interesting that the Infinite Cube was labeled 2018 because that's probably when Puff was working on this particular scene way back when. The ship is the USS Bomi? I have no idea what that means. Leaf mode is a reference to Animal Crossing, where anything you pick up is then represented by a little leaf icon much like this. The sound effect of the rocket collapsing into a little leaf is very similar to moving objects in that series. And when Henry is attempting to carefully place this device, we can see a diamond block from Minecraft just behind Henry. Our successful option is the suck pack. The statement of its sucking obviously has to do more with its function rather than its actual usefulness. Henry really loves to drive with that baller yet reckless 12 and 0 hand placement. This earns the ending Cleaned 'em out. This end screen is filled with references. This is actually the first time any of Gadget Gabe's gadgets have actually worked. The guy does not have a good track record. But that's a great long-term payoff of the full series to have something work. We have the golden frying pan from Team Fortress 2, an Animal Crossing fossil, a golden bone from Luigi's Mansion, a diamond helmet from Minecraft, stone masks from both JoJo's Bizarre Adventure and Majora's Mask, a golden turd potentially from The Binding of Isaac, but I think it looks a little bit more like Hestu's gift from Breath of the Wild, N64 cartridges of Conker's Bad Fur Day, and a golden Ocarina of Time cartridge, something that you could actually get in real life. Both a Henry Funko Pop and Amiibo our Diatide statue returning, a Mario Superstar, a bunch of gold-plated weapons that are relatively generic, goodies, and other loot. Plus a big wall of gems and some art. I don't recognize any of these as being like particularly famous historic art pieces. Maybe someone else can help me out with that. A fun fact, this is the only route in completing the mission where Henry doesn't kill anyone. It's a relatively violent series. Next in the list would be government-supported private investigator and convict allies. Henry is working with the government, the Top Hat leaders are arrested, and Henry escaped the complex alongside Ellie. In this opening cutscene, Charles is sanctioned to come pick us up somewhere in Canada, which the location of the wall has been confirmed by Puff, for the three of us to then help out once again versus the Top Hats. We have a classic wink at the camera sort of moment where Charles flat out states the name of the game.
The three of us will have no problems completing the mission.
That's just kind of a fun trope. Before this first set of options, Ellie quotes a common Fortnite phrase from around 2018 when the game was being worked on. Where are we dropping, boys?
Where are we dropping, boys?
This is also repeated in the title of this point along this route. Soaring in via a parachute is much like how characters enter a match in PlayerUnknown's Battleground. This is layered on with the way Ellie crawls after she is hit, and Henry searching under the car, all coming from that game. This car also has a license plate, T-Hat1. Like Top Hat. It's pretty on the nose. Instead, soaring in through a parasol, like Fortnite, off in the distance, a tower is built up to snipe out two heroes much like that game. I really got raked over the coals for this little slip in my own Let's Play.
Yeah, I was just about to close up.
Oh, weird. It built up. Did I just get Team Fortressed? I was on my 6th hour of Henry Stickmining in the last 2 days, and after seeing 10,000 other Team Fortress references, I just had a quick slip up. Boy oh boy did you guys let me have it. Perhaps a little deserved. On the radio, we have BIA number 503. This is based on a video from Germa985, where they held a meeting of the BIAs filled with this specific Grand Theft Auto 4 NPC.
Alright, so welcome everybody to the meeting of the BIAs. So let's just get started. Hot dogs, yeah. Bug collection, yeah. See you all next month, yeah.
It's such a weird joke, but a very funny video at the same time. I love the quick inclusion, even if the character never had anything to do with top hats. Flapping wings with your arms, along with the peaceful music, all come from the Birdman mode in Pilot Wings 64. Similar to that free roam mode, if you collide with anything, you are tossed through the air before a fade to white to show your character planted headfirst in the ground, frantically kicking. Considering Henry's past luck with jetpacks, this one shockingly works. Even Ellie comments on how unexpected that success is. We now have 2 pairs of options, each associated with Henry or Ellie. We can swap between the 2 characters to view the full range of options. The tag team swapping comes with some monkey sound effects alluding to the larger Donkey Kong Country reference of Donkey Kong and Diddy swapping. If we swap 6 times in a row, Charles calls us out for goofing around, and we earn the achievement, "This is fun." Ellie may choose to throw, where she winds up her spin much like Mario tossing Bowser in Super Mario 64. After making it about 2 meters, we get the fail, "So long, gay Henry," referencing a very specific voice line that is often memed.
So long, gay Bowser.
From Mario tossing Bowser, we all know what's actually being said there. Henry may choose to build by placing dirt blocks outward like Minecraft. He walks a few steps too far and takes fall damage along with a very similar hurt sound effect. And what might be my favorite visual gag of this entire series, Henry then drops the 3 items that apparently comprise a Stickmin. A stick, some meat, and some boots. I love that in every possible way. We get a simple "you died" fail screen, just like in Minecraft. Building more on that previous swapping Donkey Kong Country reference, Henry can use barrel, with our heroes even clipping through the side to enter it, just like that game, and chaining between a series of launching barrels, collecting bananas along the way. Charles swoops in for the assist, which makes me wonder, Why did he even drop us off to begin with? Shockingly, none of these fails seem to contain any specific references. But don't worry, after Charles cannons us into the rocket, we encounter some of the densest referencing the series has ever seen. Charles's direct hit line might be a quote from the board game Battleship. The downgrader device is something that will be especially funny to any animators out there, as it turns the entire scene into an animatic. The way Henry holds this device up is much like He-Man summoning his powers in Masters of the Universe. I like to think that's the case because I love He-Man, but nothing else really points towards that. This is the animated equivalent of a sketch or rough outline. They are used to nail down the framing, timing, and key movements of an animation. You're just storyboarding, so they're purposely left non-detailed. Funnily enough, Puff probably storyboarded this whole scene and then just kind of stopped animating at this point. One of my favorite moments in the series comes from Fusion. Henry and Ellie do the Fusion dance from the Dragon Ball franchise and become Elry. I guess if you swapped their names, it would just be Henry? So Elry it is. Their bio reference to Henry's luck has been a recurring joke through the series. We get some gaping anime gasps from the onlookers, which are frequent in Dragon Ball. The way their voices layer together is how fusion voices work in Dragon Ball.
Who will challenge me?
I am not Goku or Vegeta. I am Gogeta.
Literally everything in the scene is Dragon Ball, so I can probably stop specifying that. Including the arrival of Cabbits, whose name is likely a play on Kakarot and Raditz. They love engaging in pre-battle banter, as stated in the bio, and the top of his top hat being yellow is much like a Super Saiyan. Henry and Ellie land in the field emulating Yamcha's death scene, and the fail jokes about battles and banters typically being extremely drawn out in the Dragon Ball series. As if that wasn't dense enough with the references, we now get to examine diversion, the natural evolution of Ellie and Henry's distraction dance, only this time taken to the absolute extreme. We have building trap music that comes to a singular drop before everyone in the room starts dancing along, much like the Harlem Shake. Henry appears to be doing the iconic Freddie Mercury pose from Queen's performance at St. James's Park in 1986. Ellie, I don't think is doing anything that specific. Once the dancing begins, a few join in on the distraction dance itself, while many others do their own thing, similar to you would in a Harlem Shake. Frederick is doing the Bernie, which comes from Weekend at Bernie's. This was also one of the most common dance moves used in early Harlem Shake videos. Orange Hat Kid is a reference to Orange Shirt Kid and is performing Fortnite's Orange Justice. Toby Mac is a reference to emo Tobey Maguire doing his dance to impress the ladies from Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 3. Funny that we actually finally have to start specifying which Spider-Man 3. While Earrings is doing a sick dab, Primavera, Mulligatawny, and Lasagna do the torture dance from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. These three are also a reference to the way JoJo characters are commonly named after food, especially Italian food. Okay, here's where it starts to get tricky, both for collecting bios and catching all the references. This one is probably the most unclear. I think he's just raising the roof, but Crabman is doing SpongeBob's Crab Borg dance. Batteries in the Back Pocket is also a joke from that same episode. Part of the DK rap dance is being performed by Conky Dong with a fitting brown hat and red stripe. If he shoots ya, it's gonna hurt. It's a line straight from the rap. Hat Girl is doing her frequently memed smug dance from A Hat in Time. Our equivalent of the Mario Bros, Marty O and Louie G, doing the Mario from the Super Mario Bros. Super Show. Sleepy Dog parking it like it's hot, as seen in Drop It Like It's Hot. Sleepy even has a brimmed top hat to look more like Snoop in that music video. His bio even has the most subtle allusion to smoking the reefer possible. Mr. Unstoppable is doing the worm. Cowboy Siggy, Tommy Partridge, and the Magician are dancing together in a line that is assumed to be a conga line from TF2, where multiple players do the conga taunt in unison. I know the conga is a thing outside of that game, but this seems to be more close to the TF2 version. Lank and Lonk are doing the 1-2-7-3 part of the Rockefeller Street dance, as well as three characters simply doing the distraction dance themselves. In the background, we have a few static characters who are kind of dancing. There is Johnny Bravo with a top hat on his lengthy do, another guy who's just kind of laying dead, and someone doing a disco-like point. and another guy whose stomach hurts. I don't know, he's just standing there, okay? There are several bios that are specific to this section that we can look at, beyond obvious ones like Martio and Luigi. Link and Lonk have white and black top hats, and in a weird way are kind of like yin and yang, while also just having very similar names to Link. I don't think anything else about them is really building off of that. Link's bio has a play on the Skyrim arrow to the knee meme, although he instead takes it to the chest and ends up in the hospital, while Lonk just lost the game, and so did I. And so did you. And so did everyone, I guess. This guy in the black with the big yellow pompadour and flexing pose is Jonathan Bravo. Like I said before, he's based on Johnny Bravo from the old 90s cartoon. I guess he does sound a lot like Elvis. I would have totally unappreciated that basis for the character watching it as a kid. When it comes time to pick any of the 3 plans, all of them are doing their version of a thinking emoji face. Charles's plan is an over-explanation of his greatest plan. I love the assumption that Henry would understand and be on board, even though this version of Henry would have never witnessed that plan because it's always been a fail. It would have been amazing, Charles. We can all agree to that. While Henry has often been a man of few words, detailing his plan would have perhaps been one of the few times he had actually something more full to share. Instead, the game cuts away to having Charles react to play up the mystery. I love that jumping out and being caught by the helicopter is a bit of a payoff to the epic action movie moment we attempted in fleeing the complex. The rocket is redirected, crashing into the wall, and playing a small musical sting from the complex's theme song. Through this we earn the ending, Triple Threat. Next up is the government-supported private investigator and presumed dead. Henry is working with the government, the Top Hat leaders are arrested, Henry never worked with Ellie and faked his death to escape the wall. After wandering through the snow, we reconnect with Charles fighting at the wall and decide to work together. In this path, the satellite has already been launched into space. Charles states this mission is now personal.
It's starting to get personal.
Which is a pretty generic trope played up for extra emphasis here, and the two take a secret government prototype to take down the orbital. Charles reminisces that this is just like last time, referring to when Henry had to board the airship from a distance. This branch is even named Infiltrating the Orbital Station in the Fail map. We get 4 options with red arrows just like in that path, with one of them even being a cannon again. Speaking of, the air cannon. I think this looks super familiar. I cannot quite place what it reminds me of. I thought maybe Sonic or like a specific Flash game. I'm stumped on this, but I think it's a thing. When Charles attempts to fly up to drop Henry off, he is quickly shot down. The guy who reports the incoming ship has a few cartoons on the wall behind him. Also with his headphones shoved straight through his top hat and more relaxed cadence, Bert Curtis is sort of our evil Charles. It's just kind of funny to have a Charles equivalent on the top hat side. These comics reference Pearls Before Swine, Garfield, and The Far Side. We're out of toilet paper. I've never used it. You call that a joke? I am Cat. Want Lasga. I sounded like Borat. Look, all I'm saying is I'm not as witty as Gary Larson. Gary Larson, the creator of The Far Side, is notable for being a single-frame formatted comic. All of these kind of approximate the style of the comics they're referencing. That one's probably just the most clever, which is ironic when it's talking about not being clever. Charles is then given a 1-star rating as if Henry were rating an Uber or Lyft driver. Or Henry can climb into a spacesuit and is shot at the rocket in a ball of trash. This could either be a reference to SpongeBob's No Nose Nose, or Futurama's A Big Piece of Garbage. While hugging the outside of the orbital, Charles can attempt a super accurate laser shot, which is very similar to his attempted snipe on the wall. It works this time, but the crew quickly puts shields up similar to Star Trek, and Henry is cut in half. Hot Knife ejects itself from the helmet and floats away. The fail text is Butterfingers? This time it's a question, and acts as a callback to the Butterfingers fail in infiltrating the airship. Same as that time, clicking the fail earns an achievement.
Easy now.
Butterfingers. Butterfingers.
Instead, though, the Butterfingers quote from Spider-Man 2 is interrupted by pizza and a scream that is also from that movie.
Butterfingers.
Pizza!
Here is the tiniest bit extra context for each of those clips.
Butterfingers.
Whoa! He stole that guy's pizza!
And again quickly edited together.
Pizza!
Pizza.
Through this we earn Greasy Delight. Rub some butter on it. Charles gets an affirmative ding. and his most confident thumbs up yet. Charles, the bold action man himself, finally does his ultimate plan and crashes straight into the ship. I've always wanted to do that, is Charles directly acknowledging this being his go-to plan in all situations. Finally, he got to do it. We know he's done it a few times, but finally it worked. The failed attempt at a hack with the slight shock and error buzz sounds like it might be a reference. It reminded me a bit of BioShock, but you don't really hack keypads in that game. I know Deus Ex has notoriously convoluted hacking mechanisms, but none of the sounds really matched with what I saw. Maybe someone else can think of one that's a more direct reference. The bruh fail is a pretty on-the-nose nod to typical memeable bruh moments. This branch is named after the popular Door Stuck video from Counter-Strike.
Can't make it, stuck. Out of my way, son! Door stuck! Door stuck!
Our successful path here is in the vent, which can be a generic reference to numerous crime and escape films, but it also has significance to Inner Sloth's other game, Among Us. If we attempt to use the luxury pod, we encounter a few top-at higher-ups. The higher-ups in this pod are Carol Cross, who has the double name meaning of cross meaning strict, and that you don't want to cross her. Albert Poshly, as in a rich, posh lifestyle. Arnold Schwartz returning from fleeing the complex. Sven Svensson is unique to this game, and takes over when Reginald the right-hand man or Henry are unavailable to be in charge. No, he is not voiced by anyone else, this is still Puff's voice. There have been a few suggestions of different real-life people and YouTubers he sounds like, but that's just a testament to Puffballs' range. Gene Fredrickson, the former mayor seen in Stealing the Diamond, who apparently was working with the Top-Ats and was planning to steal the diamond himself. I love this tiny retcon, since the Top-At clan wasn't introduced until after that original game. Puff just went back and made the only other character in the series prior to infiltrating the airship with a Top-At evil. It was a long con all along. And Mr. Macbeth, whose name and differing top hat color and style are all made in reference to the forever train engineer from Star Fox's Planet Macbeth. That character happens to be an ape. One of the lines from that character is about being taken seriously.
They're not taking me seriously.
All of this tying in with him being the train conductor of completing the mission. If going for the occupied pod, Hazmat inside has a major freakout and starts slamming buttons. One is a reverse thruster that blasts the escape pod into the ship. Why do we even have that lever? References the Emperor's New Groove. The successful option is the cracked pod. After a quick tussle, Henry is left floating away in the pod alone. Charles is trapped on the station. In a farewell, he commends himself for his plan, referencing his past claim of it being the greatest plan. We have an emotional send-off to the greatest man, our bold action friend, Charles, earning the ending Valiant Hero. Let's not dwell on that at all, because it's a major bummer. We've all been grieving it for months at this point. Let's just move past it. Instead, let's just flip over to the government-supported private investigator and international rescue operative. A route where Henry is instead best buds with Charles, and nothing bad has ever happened. Henry worked with the government in both games, and he and Charles have a great partnership going on strong. He also says that he would owe Henry a big ol' favor. The way it capitalizes big ol' makes it a rather unexpected reference to the secret sword hidden in infiltrating the airship. I love that the boss man calls him Charlie. The mission is just beginning and Charles is being targeted by a SAM, surface-to-air missile turret, that looks very familiar. The colors remind me of the missile turrets in StarCraft, but it definitely isn't that. There's a chance this is just a unique design of Puff's. Panel is not a direct reference, and instead is just riffing on the trope of the hero shutting something down by ripping out all the wiring. Obviously that's bound to have consequences. That kinda seemed like the opposite thing to do. I also like the way this parallels Charles' own tropey guesswork when he tries to hack that door panel. Chowing down on a cupcake and doing nothing else is very similar to the nothing actions of Cheese in Stealing the Diamond. Instead, we can hang a drawing in front of the SAM's homing system that result in it seeing only clouds. The fail text after getting smushed by the jet pod is a play on the shorthand text your Uber driver might send when they arrive to pick you up. The invisible bridge feels like the evolution of when Charles teleported us in a platform in infiltrating the airship. The sound effect is even slightly similar. part of this that I think might just be coincidental is that thanks to the framing and placement of the invisible bridge option, it even fades in right through Henry's midsection, just like the old platform fail did. If that's an intentional callback framed in that way, it's very clever and very subtle. We get on board through the trapeze, which is more of an old Daredevil stunt than an actual reference. On board, we have boxes labeled gun parts, paperwork, cards, and just a big old box. We hear Marty O and Luigi doing a version of the gibberish speech heard in the Mario and Luigi series. The Witch and Sheriff, which sounds like the start of a joke, are handling a piece from a solid gold cannon. This is a reference to a joke back in Infiltrating the Airship, where some of the Top Hat members are arguing over the impracticality of a solid gold cannon. And here's my attempt to write a punchline now. What do you get when you cross a witch and a sheriff? A warthog. But dumb tis. There are a lot of randos on board here, so let's cover some quick bios while we're at it. Tintin is seen extremely briefly. His name is referencing both Tintin, and the bio refers to a particular time-travel-y event in Game of Thrones. I won't spoil the specifics of that for anyone though, and I would ask that anyone in the comments who understands also refrain. Stupendals may not sound like anything, but this is a weird one that I can't believe I figured out. Took some crafty Googling. Stupendals is meant to sound a little like Stupendous. Stupendous is a Scooby-Doo character who owed money to Carol Colossal, so Stupendals owing Carol Cross is meant to mirror Stupendous owing Carol Colossal. That is the most random reference. I'm curious if Puff named Carol Cross first, and then built this up from here, maybe the other way around. It's so weird and I love it. The Magician is actually wearing the hat that Henry uses to board the train in the Cleaned 'Em Out path scene earlier. That doesn't mean that other scene wasn't a Bugs Bunny reference, but it just shows a nice attention to detail. Bucket Hat has a bucket hat. There's a chance this is a Buckethead reference, or it's just that Puff likes oversized bucket hats. And finally, there is Gone Hunter and Ken Janpon, seen playing rock, paper, scissors. There are a few layers to these two. Ken is based off of Ken Oyanagi from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, who is also known as the Rock, Paper, Scissors Kid. Ken Janpon's name can be rearranged to Jan Kanpon, which is the Japanese name for the game of rock, paper, scissors. Puff actually managed to outpun JoJo here. And Gone Hunter's name references both the character Gone Freaks, as well as the series the character originates from, Hunter x Hunter. Gone Hunter has the same spiky hair as Gone and a top hat that mimics the design of Gone's jacket. That character has a series of attacks that are based on rock, paper, scissors. I love the concept of picking two completely separate anime characters that are rock, paper, scissors themed and literally having them play a match. TV broadcast lowers a giant TV screen playing a stickminified version of Seinfeld. We have Jeremy instead of Jerry and Jeff instead of George delivering his iconic "I'm getting upset" line. Although as a Seinfeld fan, I'm a little disappointed that he didn't deliver it in the third person.
Getting upset, Jeremy. George is getting upset.
Graham is getting upset. The bio shows that this is Jeremy Steinfeld. What's the deal with is a pretty iconic setup for a typical Seinfeld joke. And instead of George Costanza, we have Jeff Constanza. Neurotic and causing problems for himself is classic George. It does make me wonder who Brant is. Is this just a friend of Puff's who dislikes Seinfeld? Because he's wrong, and I agree that Brant bad. When Charles tries to clear a path with the subsonic wave, it instead floors everyone. Must have had it set to 11. This is a reference to a famous scene in the classic mockumentary This is Spinal Tap, where they have the loudest possible speakers that can be dialed up all the way to 11. Charles shows us that on occasion his hacking skills are still reliable with the remote Top Hat. Topbot smashes into the room like the Kool-Aid Man and brings his own unique, desperate, attention-seeking energy dancing away, with a distracting dance that is not itself the distraction dance. Topbot does the hype Rockefeller Street dance and some very aggressive thrusting. In the engine room, Henry can use Team Fortress 2's Engineer Wrench. By smashing away at the engine, he instead accidentally upgrades it, similar to how the engineer might build or upgrade a Sentry. Henry actually improves the engine and the ship takes off, and that was only a level 2 engine. The power button shoots a massive offensive laser, which makes me wonder what the heck an on would have done instead. Red herring is a reference to a literary plot device and would be anything that misleads or distracts from a relevant or important question. That thing that serves as a red herring is rarely an actual literal fish, and in fact, there is no real species known as a red herring. If anyone has ever been curious like myself, the term was popularized in 1807 by English polemicist William Cobbett, who told a story of having used a strong-smelling smoked fish to divert and distract hounds from chasing a rabbit. Henry simply tosses a physical fish into the engine and shuts the whole thing down. This is the only option in the entire series that lacks an animation or special effect when moused over. Kinda neat. In an effort to make our way to the cockpit, Henry can jump through painting portals. This action, and everything about the resulting sequence after, is a reference to Super Mario 64. After jumping into Jacques Kensington's painting, an eccentric leader who always had a golden desert eagle on hand, this is course 75, Kensington's Chamber, with the star to be earned being the mischievous boss. I like the little top hat behind the 75, but why specifically 75, I don't really know. There are only 15 courses in Mario 64. It might just be a joke of 7 and 5 being one more each than 6 and 4, and making it course 64 would have just been 2 on the nose, or a legitimate trademark issue. Henry comes flipping onto the stage, lands directly in front of Jacques, and is immediately shot down. Bowser should have been packing heat.
Let's go. Hey.
The let's go, all the sound effects and music, the life counter, power wheel, camera icon, top hat fade out, and the deep laugh much like Bowser's are all versions of what is seen in Super Mario 64. Gotta collect more of those extra life mushrooms refers to the green 1-up mushrooms from the Mario series. The platform Henry lands on looks a lot like one of the platforms from Bowser in the Dark World, although it's more broadly referencing any of those Bowser boss levels. The Swapper is a standalone Gadget Gabe item that allows Henry to trade places with anyone. I thought this might have been a reference to the indie game, The Swapper, but this device works a lot differently than that one. Along with the suck pack seen earlier, this is the only other successful Gabe item. Sleep Dart may be a callback to the sleeping gas of infiltrating the airship. Maybe something contained in a dart projectile would be more effective, but it still has its limitations. Again, this device that shoots it looks very familiar, but I can't place this one either. The infrared sniper could also be a callback to another Charles fail where he shot Henry in fleeing the complex. Charles appears to use a Barrett M82, before slowly and calmly crashing. Let's see you fire a gun while piloting a helicopter is a lot like our chase consequence fail in fleeing the complex when crashing the truck trying to shoot back. After a very loud foghorn-like honk, the gun is dropped, Henry punches his lights out, and the top hats are hauled off. The rocket is locked up like a remote car, which might be a small callback to the rocket scene in Fleeing the Complex. These two are very different, and this new one isn't a Kerbal Space Program reference like before, but that rocket had a rough engine start. And now this one locks like a car? That just seems to be a running joke of how rockets work in the Henry Stickmin world. Those being let off the ship include Sir Hattie, who is referencing Hattie Haddington from Battle Block Theater. He's being ushered out by Gus Bricks and Brian Reynolds, who could have been a model, referencing actor Ryan Reynolds. Charles runs up for a super ultra high five handshake combo, just like Schwarzenegger and Carl Weathers in Predator. Charles and Henry are both made Special Covert Ops agents, and we earn the ending Special Brovert Ops. There are so many bios throughout this game, just so many. So I laced through as many of the relevant reference-based ones as I could within the video, but there's a few left over. I'm only including those that are both references and appear in one of the branches covered specifically in this video. Captain H.J. Canterbury, it is mentioned his brother is in the police department, who would be Captain Roland Canterbury, previously seen in Stealing the Diamond. Thomas Chips, his father being Alan Chips, is a play on the old Mega 64 sketch E3 1975. Darius Johnsonite, pretty valuable to the team, I would say. He's the one who appraises all their stolen gems. His last name ending in "ite" is a play on the common suffix for minerals. Mr. Job, he wanted to start a computer business, but was beaten to it by someone with the same name, referring to Steve Jobs. Hannibal Burns is clearly a play on Hannibal Buress. There just aren't that many Hannibals out there, you know? He's an excellent comedian, by the way. I definitely recommend his stuff. Terence Suave and Sir Wilfrid IV actually make their second appearance in this series, with both being in framed picture appearances only. Wilfrid appears to have one less hat here than he did in his other portrait. Barry Bruh is a pretty straightforward nod to any old bruh moment. Cool Joe returns from fleeing the complex after a successful jailbreak. He does nothing in this game. He's only here for this one scene, so good for him, I guess. Jacked Hugh Man is a pretty clear swap of actor Hugh Jackman's name. It's also kind of funny that we have Brian Reynolds and Jacked Hugh Man, since they have a little bit of a real-life jokey rivalry. And as funny as this name is, and as limited as his role is in the series, we still hate him. Jacked Hugh Man is directly responsible for the Valiant Hero ending. Maybe this world has its own version of Perry Cox, who hates Jacked Hugh Man as much as that character hates Hugh Jackman.
And as always, we're not that big on Hugh Jackman.
Hugh Jackman's Wolverine. How dare he?
Or maybe that's us. Maybe we're Perry Cox in this scenario. I may have missed someone with a reference that came up in one of these routes. There is a lot to keep track of. But if so, hopefully I can just fold them into one of the future videos, as most characters do show up multiple times. Oh boy, this series is going to be a lot to cover, but we've crossed the halfway point, which is very exciting. A huge shout out to patrons of the channel. Those contributions mean so much to me, and with every passing week, we're getting closer and closer to me being able to take this channel full time. Maybe people didn't know, I basically do this as a hobby. And I do quickly want to talk about the sponsor in this video. One, just to remind you that if you do follow that link, it helps me out a lot, but also just to explain where I'm coming from, as I know many people dislike those sort of ad placements. But understand that I do this in my spare time. It takes a lot of work, and this isn't even my job. Sponsored segments like this actually bring me so much closer to being able to do this full time. And then the wait between big videos won't be nearly as long. So while you might not like sitting through an ad, I have nothing but the deepest gratitude for them. So be sure to go check that out. It really goes a long way in supporting me and the work I do here on the channel. So that's where I'm coming from there. I'm confident that most of you would respect that hustle, and for anyone who's ever been mad about sponsorships, know that that attitude is directly harming creators. And I hope that you now feel a little better informed of that situation and perspective. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you again soon.